What areas of city government services are appropriate or not appropriate for public-private partnerships? Why?
Private-public partnership. Well, case in point, Friends of the Alameda Shelter. Great public-private partnership. City cannot afford to keep the shelter available to the residents, so the public stepped in and said, hey, let us do it. Volunteers, fundraisers, that's a prime example. Public safety, I'm kind of mixed in that. I know the Alameda PD has the volunteer program, City of Oakland has the same thing. Certain police work, yes. Firefighting, maybe not. Ambulance service, of course not. Library, yes. Public-private partnership, yes. Social service, yes. So I don't know where to draw the line, but there's a lot. Just use common sense. There's a lot right now that we can use as case studies, but those that I mentioned are great public-private partnerships. And if we just focus on that and keep the welfare of Alameda residents in mind, and just use common sense, those are the examples that I have at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan?
Speak with very few words, but public-private partnerships, I think, are appropriate so long as it honors existing contracts and agreements with public employees. On the other hand, I feel that I should bring to light some public-private partnerships that do exist. My employer currently has 4 bargaining units, as well as hundreds of private contractors from single owner operators on up to multi-employee privately owned companies. Statewide, there are 21 bargaining units and thousands of private contractors. This hybrid formula of providing services to Californians has proven to be sustainable and cost-effective thus far.
Thank you. Joanna?
I agree with Stuart and Tony about the private, because gonna bring money for Alameda. You have to do the same in my country. When you make a contract, you make a long-term agreement for not having cuts and maintain the budget. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
Friends of the Animal Shelter is a great example of a public-private partnership. But the concern is, to me, that if we go forward and investigate in other kinds of partnerships like that involve the provision of what has formerly been services offered to our citizens of Alameda, we're risking a lot. What happens, in my opinion, is that most people have sort of a fixed budget in mind when it comes to charitable contributions, that they've got a fixed number of dollars that they will donate to all of their charities combined in a given year. And it doesn't, if you develop a new charity, such as the Animal Shelter, which now requires annual charitable contributions to keep up, it doesn't mean that people who are donating are adding to their charity dollars. It just means that they're taking their charity dollars away from some other charity in order to now fund the Animal Shelter. And if we start doing that with other public services in Alameda, we could be at risk. We could be at risk of not having enough money to fund those services. And we could be at risk of hurting some of our other major charities that Alameda sponsors and enjoys. So I think it's a little tricky to say that's the answer to all of our problems, that we can't afford to do it in Alameda, so let's do a public-private partnership that's going to entail a lot of fundraising. I think we have to be very, very careful about picking a project that will really work under that model. And I, for one, would be extremely cautious at suggesting that especially the services that we in Alameda have come to enjoy, like our parks, our library, those are the kinds of things I've heard proposed for public-private partnerships. We don't want to be in a situation where it's all great the first year, but then when it comes to funding them the subsequent years, we can't find the dollars to do it.
Thank you. Jeff?
We good? I just want to make sure, I have a very loud voice otherwise. Anyway, before I start this question, I want to make sure that everybody understands the distinction between public-private partnership and privatization. Privatization is actually where the government turns over the entire service, whatever that is, to a private entity and loses total control over that function. Public-private, government is still involved. And the level that it's involved is very important for the quality of the services that we are all going to experience from that. So people have mentioned the animal shelter, and I will talk about that in a minute. But on the public-private partnership, I think it has limited uses, and they should be used to supplement, not replace, our existing services that we have. So for instance, the Alameda Police Department, if you go in there, the reception person may be a volunteer. And that's fine because a uniformed officer is better off on the street. So I'm happy with that. The issue really comes down to accountability and transparency, so that government still can be representative to its residents. If, for instance, the animal shelter doesn't raise enough money, who's in control of those licenses? If it's only the animal shelter, I'm not suggesting they do this, but then if they don't have the money, then they have the ability to raise the license fee in order to generate that service. So, transparency, accountability, and maintaining government control. These nonprofits should be checking in and making sure we have service levels that we want, that are acceptable to us.
Thank you. Well, the city already does have a number of public-private partnerships going on, whether it's thought of formally in that sense or not. Everyone's mentioned the animal shelter. I think it's a huge recent success story. We have to be realistic about the city's budget. We would love for the city to provide all kinds of services, but we don't print money in the basement, and so there are certain priorities, and when those funds are expended, some things will just fall by the wayside. I think it was a wonderful effort that came to put the Friends of the Alameda Animal Shelter together, and I'm going to the fundraiser next Thursday. I hope you are too. The library, near and dear to my heart, I co-chaired the campaign to build a new library. The Friends of the Library, and some of the stalwart members are in this room, over the years, and with their fundraising efforts, their book sales, they now run the cafe at the library, they fund the children's summer reading program, they buy new equipment, they were invaluable to us in our new library, they bought furnishings, we would be lost without them as a library. I would like to see Parks and Recreation, the landscaping, tree maintenance aspect of it, look to a public-private partnership like some cities have. They call it Friends of the Urban Forest. There's an active organization in San Francisco. We've had people speak to planning board because one of the things when we cut budgets is we don't get to maintain the trees as frequently as we would like, and that's not good because it can lead to loss of trees. I'd like to see something like that pursued. I happen to think our business associations, the Chamber, PISPA, WABA, do a great job of marketing for the city, of showing other businesses the potential to come here, and that certainly helps the city. And the Alameda Museum also does public-private sorts of things. I just feel that Alamedans, as I know them from working in the community over the years, are a generous, talented, creative people, and people understand these are difficult times. I believe they'll step forward. Jean Sweeney was the other name I meant to mention. Do you remember the Beltline? She found that law, that old contract, and we are going to have a wonderful potential park someday. So there's lots that can be done with public-private partnerships. Thank you.
Well, the city of Alameda has a long history of success when it comes to public-private partnerships, success at varying levels. At the soft public-private partnership, for example, you know, when you go to Franklin Pool or when you go to the Lincoln Pool, it's local residents who are taking care of those pools. In fact, when it comes to Franklin Pool, those local residents who put up money to improve those pools. So at that level, you know, we already have a solid work history when it comes to public-private partnerships regarding city assets like the pool. So when you see the emerging public partnership regarding the animal shelter, that's building off of a long-standing history of successes that Alameda's already enjoyed. So I think if I'm elected as council member, we need to continue promoting public-private partnerships, but not just at the soft level, but even at the medium level where people begin to put up real dollars and begin to kind of direct the public-private partnership. For example, when the Measure B discussion occurred, there was some consideration where individuals were going to help put up money for some of the sports facilities as well as money for the ongoing operations. Now this is a more sophisticated level of public-private partnership, I'll call it medium level. And here too, I think the city of Alameda ought to encourage this, ought to engage in this. I mean, we have a platform of success, for example, when smaller things like Lincoln Park pools or the Franklin Park pools, or even the control of certain tennis courts that are done on a public-private basis. So let's not be afraid of engaging and embracing public-private partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate the audience on its breadth of